Hi guys, this is Dan. Welcome back to my channel. I can't believe it is the time already. Every time when I go out, the weather is so much nicer and warmer. It is always so sunny and sunset is so much later. Do you know why? Spring has come finally. So in today's video, I will talk about all the amazing fantasy books that I am going to read in this beautiful season. And it is also the time for me to plan ahead of all the content. The month I will cover in this Spring TBR is of course from March this month and then till June. So that would be 4 months in total, and I don't know why I'm doing like 8, but 4 months in total. If you remember from my 2025 reading plan, every month I am going to read 4 books, so that would be a total of 16 books in this TBR. By the way, I have a little exciting news for you guys. Recently, I have just started my own Patreon. I know that this channel Fantasy is still quite small and I'm not sure is it a good move or not. But if you want to support the running of this channel, and very obviously, it is still quite young, too little to be eligible for monetization on YouTube, you may go and check my Patreon out. I am still in an early stage and I have absolutely no idea about how I should set up my Patreon, what sort of benefits I can offer you guys, or even how to set up a proper Discord server. So by the time you are watching this video, I will probably post a post on Patreon. If you have any ideas or suggestions of how I should set up my Patreon, feel free to comment on that post on Patreon. It is like we are working together and build this little community together from scratch. If any of you want to support me, support what I am doing, you can go and check my Patreon out. The lowest tier is like £1 and it is not that much more when you go further up with each tier. It is more or less a cup of coffee, maybe a pint of lager. It is not that expensive. So feel free to have a look there. I will post a link to my Patreon down in the description, or maybe I'll pin a comment in the comment section. So I guess it is finally the time to dive into my Spring's TBR. In here, I will put all these books into 3 categories so you guys can follow more easily. Category is series I need to work on, my most anticipated release of 2025, and other books from books subscriptions. Maybe we can start with the series I need to continue. It is the easiest to do so. If you know me well, or if you have followed me not enough, you will know what series I am talking about. The first 2 series here, I have actually talked about them in my 2025 reading plan, so I will be quite brief here. The first series I have is The Wheel of Time by Robert Jordan. It is a series that I started long time ago, but just for some reasons, I didn't pick it up again. Then in the beginning of the year, I'm thinking, I can't be like this anymore. I have to complete this series before I forget everything that had happened. I honestly don't want to start this series again from book 1, which I have already reread. I am currently 9 books into the series. I plan to read a book from the series every other month, so by the end of the year, I can take off another very popular epic fantasy series. So in this Spring's TBR, I have to read Crossroads of Twilight, which is the 10th book of the series, and I have already talked about it in my March TBR. As I am reading it every other month, the next book I have to read is Knife of Dreams, which I will read it in May. I am a bit scared to start this journey again because I have heard lots of reviews about the 10th book and most of them are negative, saying that it is the worst of the series and the plot is barely there. But never mind, I am so determined to complete this series. Once we have hit the hard rock bottom, I don't think this series can get any worse. Let alone Crossroads of Twilight, which is the book I am going to read in this month, is the second last book written by Robert Jordan alone. And then starting from the 13th book, it will be co-written by Brandon Sanderson. And I honestly can't wait to get to that book to see how Brandon Sanderson put his own magic to this fantasy series. The other epic fantasy series I need to work on, which I also mentioned it in my 2025 reading plan, and it is the Echo Saga by Philip C. Quintrell. Different from the Wheel of Time, I will read a book from this series every month. I asked in my March TBR which I want to do a spoiler reading vlog for this whole series, but I am not too sure what's the format gonna be like. But now I have decided that I will do a complete reading vlog for the whole series, rather than doing them individually. Which means that by the end of 2025, you will see a spoiler vlog of me reading the whole Echoes Saga. I am quite looking forward to make that video because I want to see my truly honest opinion and reaction to this whole epic fantasy series. And I mean, it is slowly gaining the popularities in this community. And then back to this Spring's TBR, I will start the first book, The Rise of the Rangers, in March, which once again, I have talked about it in my March TBR already. Then we have Empire of Dirt in April, Relics of the Gods in May. In June, which I don't have the physical copy of the book yet, but it will be The Fall of Neverdark. In short, this series is giving me a bit of the Bound and the Broken series by Ryan Cahill, which is another self-published epic fantasy series that is gaining the popularity right now. A dark force is rising, and then in the first book, we're gonna follow our main character, Reed, who is a ranger and got drawn into growing wars. There would be like legendary warriors and other mythical creatures that you would see in a fantasy world, let's say dragons and elves. On paper, this series do promise quite a lot, and I am quite eager to find out my verdict about this series. Also, don't forget to, and I know it is weird to say so because it is spring, and I'm asking you guys to wait till winter for the complete reading vlog of this series from me. I don't think I have talked about the last series I want to read in spring before, and it is also the latest fantasy book subscription from the Broken Binding. We have Rook and Rose by M.A. Carrick. First of all, fun fact here, I didn't know it before, but M.A. Carrick is actually a joint pen name between Mary Brennan and Alec Hams, which means this trilogy is going to be co-written by two authors, which is quite a rare idea to come across with fantasy books. If I am being honest here, I haven't heard about this series before, and I don't think this series is from like long time ago. I think this one was published back in only 2021, which is like just 4 years ago. The synopsis on Goodreads is quite brief. It is about a con artist called Ren who wants to trick into a noble house for a fortune and also for the future of her sister. But behind all this masquerade, as you can see from the cover here, there is like a nightmare lurking in the city of dreams. What you can expect from this trilogy is a dark magic adventure. I will start this series in April with the book I have right here, The Mask of Mirrors, and then finishing the whole series in June with the last book, Labyrinth's Heart. I am quite looking forward to start this series because, I mean, the Broken Binding fantasy subscription never disappoints me. Let's say the Greenbone Saga or the Memory, Sorrow and Thorn series. So I am quite excited to start this one. So these are all the series I want to read in spring. I really need to work according to the schedule and finish them in time. Otherwise, my whole 2025 reading plan would be a total mess. So now I guess we can move on and talk about, I know it is a weird angle, but we can move on and talk about my most anticipated release of 2025. I'll talk about all these books quite briefly here because I think I have covered majority of them back in my, of course, most anticipated release video back in December last year. I'm actually quite excited here. Most of the titles that I want to read in this year is actually gonna be out in spring, which is like, the weather is nice, the book's gonna be nice. I don't know why I say it. I will talk about all these books according to their expected publication date. First of all, I am really excited for this one. We have Of Empire and Dust by Remke Hill, the fourth book of the Bound and the Broken series. Maybe just one book into the series, this one just feels to me another very classic epic fantasy series. But later into the series, when the plot started to expand further, it is just so immersive. You will literally care and root for every character in this world. All of them has just gone through a lot. The plot is getting more complicated with more players on board or more conspiracy going on as well. There are different mythical creatures, let's say dragons, let's say elves, there's so much more to explore. I remember how the third novel ends. It was epic but tragic. I honestly can't wait to read this one. This one is going to be out on the last day of March, so this one hopefully will be in my April's TBR. I honestly can't wait to dive back into this world. The next one I have is also really exciting. I always love like a detective mystery story, so I enjoyed the first book very much. So here we have the sequel of A Tainted Cup, A Drop of Corruption by Robert Jackson Bennett, the second book of Shadows of the Leviathan series. It is a mystery fantasy about Dean, who is an engraver, meaning he got excellent memory, and he is like an assistant to an investigator called Anna. In the first book, The Tainted Cup, they're gonna investigate a political crisis, and I enjoyed this kind of Holmes Watson style detective story. This time in the second book, of course, they're gonna work together again. They will investigate a missing person case. But smart Anna knows that it's not that simple. It is actually a murder. But this is not a spoiler, it was on the synopsis, don't worry. What makes it worse is that the murderer is very clever too, and he or she or they can walk through a warded door. There seems to be a linkage to a bigger political crisis. I know like I am repeating all the words I can to describe the books, but I just can't wait to get back to this world. I love the banter between Dean and Anna, as well as like solving this mysterious case together. This one will be out on 1st of April. I have already ordered my copy from the Inkstone Special Edition. I hope that I can get this copy within the same month so I can read this book as close to the publication date as much as I can. I can't wait to be working on the case again. In the same month, I also have another sequels I need to check out, and it is actually the last book of the Library Trilogy by Mark Lawrence, the book that held her heart. If you haven't heard about this series before, obviously this trilogy is about a library where knowledge is power and peril. It is about our main character, Eva and Nafira, discovering the secrets of this massive library through time traveling, which is an element I didn't expect in this trilogy. I quite enjoy the first two books. We are like our main characters to explore the origins, the secrets, the nature of this mysterious library. It is kind of giving mystery, mixing with some dark academia vibe, which is a combination that is so different from other epic fantasy I have here. The publication date for this one is 10th of April, and I have already ordered my Lock Library matching edition. As you may have noticed, I got the first two books on this shelf here, and of course I need a matching set. Same as A Drop of Corruption, I hope that I can get my copy as soon as possible, as close to the publication date for the standard edition as well, so that I can read the book in the same month. If not, I can just push it forward to my May's TBR. Speaking of May, if you have followed any news from this like fantasy book community, or maybe you will come across this one from like any newsletter from any bookshops, because it is such a hype book. We have The Devils by Joe Abercrombie. This one is actually a brand new fantasy trilogy set in a medieval Europe where classical cities never fell. In short, there are some like monsters invading Europe with plague and famine. In here, Pope Benedict I assembled a group of anti-heroes. Their task is to escort Alex, a former beggar turned imperial hopeful, across Europe to claim the throne of Troy. This one is going to be dark and full of horror elements, which is something that I started to like after finishing books like Brave Empire and Strange Beasts. From Joe Abercrombie, I would expect plenty of actions and his own sense of humor. I haven't read anything by this author yet, so The Devils would be like a good starting point for me to see what's so good about Joe Abercrombie. If his writing is good, if I find it immersive, I would definitely go back to check out the First Law universe in the future. By the way, I am thinking to order my copy from the Broken Binding. Their special edition is just so on point and I love their art so much. It looks so different and thrilling already. Same as the last couple of books I've talked about, if I can get this special edition as close to the standard edition publication date as possible, I would definitely read it in May. If not, this one will be on my June's TBR. The last 3 books I have here is actually coming from 3 different book subscriptions. I know that I've talked about it before. I have cancelled majority of my book subscriptions already. So why on earth I can still have so many books from them? Don't worry, I'll talk about them later when we get to them. The first one I have is the Outcast Mage by Annabelle Campbell, the first book of the Shattered Land series. It is also the first quarter book from the Ainstone subscription, and it is also a subscription that I decided to keep. I mean, you only receive 4 books a year from this subscription. Perfect for me. This one is actually a new release back in January this year, and I mean this one only got 300 ratings on Goodreads. Is it going to be a hidden gem? This one is about our main character, Nada, who is a student in an academy where magic is very important. Unfortunately, she is running out of time to prove that she can control her power. If she can't, she will get exiled. Luckily, she met a very powerful mage who is called Helios, who promised to help Nana. But this ally seems to got so many enemies and no one wants Nana to be successful. So basically, Nana is in big trouble here. I honestly have no idea what's the plot gonna be like or what's the writing style gonna be. And I mean, this is also a fantasy debut, so we don't have any information about what's the author gonna be like as well. Fingers crossed this one is going to be nice. The next book I have is of course from another book subscription, which is called Page and Wig. I haven't received the book yet, so I can't hold a physical copy here for you guys. If you haven't heard about this Page and Wig before, I think they are actually a UK-based fantasy book subscription, which originally they would do like a combo box, which you would get a book and a candle. But later they decided to release a book-only box too. Cut this long story short, I have a question for you guys. Have you ever bought a book not because of the author, but because of the graphic designer? So here I have their January book, which is Never Dies by Rob J. Hayes. I first come across with this book with the Broken Binding press edition of this particular book. But in case you don't know, the Broken Binding press edition is like the god tier of them in terms of their special edition. Their specs is like always up there, and of course the price will also be up there as well. That is the reason why I didn't buy that book. Then when I heard about Page and Wig is going to pick this book for their January subscription, I was like, great. Then I look up for the details about like who's gonna redesign the cover and all those sort of details. It was by an artist, a graphic designer that I started to love, and he is called Jeff Brown. Some of the special edition you can see on these shelves, like the Memory, Sorrow and Song series, is actually designed by him. And I mean, it is like so on point, and I always love that kind of design. As a result, I asked around to see if anyone want to save a skip and want to sell it to me, and luckily I found one, and it is coming to my home right now. I just know that this is a story about samurai and full of actions, and this is pretty much all I know about it. But I mean, this book is on the shorter side, and I think it is just perfect to read in between all this epic fantasy series here I got. By the way, speaking of page and week, I just wish that their fantasy book subscription got like a clear direction of what sort of books they're going to pick. The first time I heard about them is actually from their Sword of Kaigen by ML1. They picked this one up as the special edition or maybe for their fantasy book subscription. And I mean, they picked this book up even before the news of the Kickstarter project. The design looks great, looks so different from the original one. And I mean, someone picked up this indie fantasy book as their fantasy subscription. I was into it, so I decided to sign up for their waitlist and to see which books they're gonna pick in the future. In my mind, I hope that they're gonna pick some more indie fantasy books like Sword of Kaigen or maybe like Never Dies. But just turns out for some reasons, maybe they saw the popularity of the romantasy. Since then, all of the books they have picked up is romantasy, and when I received my invitation to this subscription, I didn't sign up to it because I am not into romantasy. And I mean, the price for this subscription, even for just book only, it is possibly the most expensive one out there, but I just don't want something that I don't really read. So the last book I have on this TBR very obviously is from another book subscription, which also share the same reasons of why I am getting Never Dies. I have Firebird by Julia Cross, the first book of the Fire That Burns series. I have actually just joined the Fairy Loot Romantasy subscription. I know, right? I know 10 seconds ago I just said romantasy is not my go-to, and now I am signing up for a romantasy subscription, but let me tell you why. Once again, the cover and the stencil edge is designed by my favorite designer, Jeff Brown again. Here, if you haven't checked out any works by this designer or artist yet, I encourage you to do so because all of his works just look so epic. So I think if Jeff Brown gonna design a cover or the stencil edge for this romantasy book, I think that would be something about it. I think it is going to be a dark romantasy that is set in a Roman world. Julianus is a Roman general falling in love with a dancer, but this general can shapeshift to a dragon. From Fairy Loot's post, they said that it is good if you enjoy a story of dragons or with political intrigue. So these two, not too bad for me. I can give it a go. I want to try it out, but most importantly, I want to get the art from Jeff Brown. That is also the reason why I decided to sign up for the Fairy Loot Romantasy, but not the page and week one. I mean, I think I have waited for such a long time. I think it is like over a year to get this invitation. In the future, if I see any titles I am interested in, of course I will get them. If not, I can simply skip or maybe see if anyone is willing to buy it from me. So here are all the books, of course not all, I want to read in spring. I haven't really counted them yet, but I think there's going to be around 15 books here, which is right under my reading goal. My only worry is, in April, I am going to be quite busy, so I am not too sure will I be able to finish them all. But I mean, there's going to be so many exciting titles to read in this spring. Do you also have any books that you can't wait to read in spring? You can feel free to share it down in the comment below. So if you've enjoyed this video, don't forget to give it a like, subscribe to my channel Fantasy so you won't miss anything from me. I'll see you all really soon. Goodbye.